They were powerful, they were innovative, and they were built to change farming forever. But instead, they vanished. From Britain's mighty County 1884 that could outpull anything in its path, to Germany's futuristic Deutz D1606, a tractor so advanced it terrified mechanics of its time, and even Eastern Europe's proud Zetor Crystal, a machine that proved genius can exist even behind the Iron Curtain. These tractors had everything: power, design, and engineering brilliance. But each one met the same fate: failure. Was it bad timing, political pressure, or simply technology that came too soon for its own good? Today, we uncover 10 European tractors that were great but doomed to fail. Number 1. Deutz D1606. When Deutz engineers unveiled the D1606 in the late 1960s, it looked less like a farm tractor and more like a futuristic machine designed for another planet. Built by Kluckner-Humboldt Deutz, this behemoth represented Germany's boldest attempt to create a next-generation, heavy-duty agricultural tractor that could compete with the biggest machines from America. At its heart was a monstrous 11.3-liter V8 air-cooled diesel engine, delivering around 160 horsepower, an astonishing figure for its time. Power was sent to all four wheels through a hydrostatic transmission system, allowing infinite speed variation without gear changes. For the era, this was revolutionary technology, something only the most advanced engineers dared to implement. The D1606 was designed as a multi-purpose machine capable of performing farm duties, industrial work, and even military tasks. It featured an articulated frame that allowed the tractor to pivot in the middle, giving it far greater maneuverability than conventional rigid designs. The driver's cab was mounted at the rear section, and the entire tractor could be reversed so that the operator faced the opposite direction for loader or implement work, a concept far ahead of its time. The build quality was exceptional, as Deutz had a reputation for durability and innovation. Farmers who saw it at exhibitions were stunned by its futuristic look and raw power. It was advertised as the machine that could redefine large-scale European farming. Yet, despite its brilliance, the D1606 turned out to be an expensive and impractical experiment. Farmers quickly discovered that it lacked a standard PTO power takeoff, a crucial component needed to run most agricultural implements. Without it, the D1606 could pull heavy loads, but couldn't operate essential attachments like balers, mowers, or combines. Moreover, its massive weight, nearly 9 tons, caused soil compaction, which harmed crop yields. The hydrostatic transmission, though advanced, was prone to overheating and required maintenance few local mechanics could provide. And since it was air-cooled, the huge engine sometimes overheated under heavy field conditions. Only around 30 to 40 units were ever built between 1969 and 1975. The tractor was too specialized, too heavy, and too costly for most European farms, which still relied on smaller 2WD models. In the end, the Deutz D1606 became more of a technological showpiece than a commercial product. Farmers admired it, but few dared to buy one. Today, it stands as one of the most fascinating engineering experiments in tractor history. A brilliant idea that arrived before its time, proving that even innovation can fail when it's not matched to real-world needs. Number 2. David Brown, 1694. Case IH 1694. By the mid-1980s, David Brown Tractors, one of Britain's proudest agricultural names, was struggling to stay afloat. Once a respected brand with a rich legacy of reliability, the company had been acquired by Case Corporation, the American agricultural giant, in hopes of revitalizing its aging lineup. The result of this merger was the David Brown 1694, later rebadged as the Case IH 1694, a tractor that promised to bring new life to the fading British brand. Built at the company's historic Meltham Mills factory in Huddersfield, England, the 1694 represented the final chapter of a proud engineering story. The 1694 was designed as a high-horsepower, four-wheel drive machine aimed at serious farmers and contractors. It was powered by a robust 5.4-liter six-cylinder diesel engine, capable of producing about 112 horsepower at the PTO. With its 12-speed partial power shift gearbox, it offered excellent torque and flexibility. Impressive for the time, the cab was one of the most comfortable ever fitted to a British-built tractor, featuring modern soundproofing, better visibility, and a heating system designed for long days in the field. It was built solidly, using heavy castings and thick steel components, following David Brown's philosophy of engineering over elegance. On paper, the 1694 had everything it needed to be a success. It was powerful, smooth, and reliable. Farmers praised its pulling power, especially for plowing and heavy draft work. However, the timing of its release couldn't have been worse. The 1980s agricultural recession hit Europe hard, with falling grain prices and high interest rates crushing farm incomes. Few farmers could afford to invest in new high-horsepower machinery. Meanwhile, the Case International Harvester merger in 1985 created chaos within the company. Dealership networks were restructured, part supplies were disrupted, and branding confusion plagued the 1694's market rollout. In some regions, it was sold as a Case tractor. In others, it still carried the David Brown name, confusing customers and dealers alike. Production lasted barely 3 years, from 1985 until 1988. When Case IH finally closed the Meltham factory, the 1694 became one of the last true British-built tractors before the brand's complete absorption into the Case IH identity. Owners who managed to get one often held on to it for decades, praising its dependability. But the model's short production run made spare parts increasingly hard to find. Eventually, many were retired simply because maintaining them became too expensive. In hindsight, the David Brown 1694 was a victim of corporate transition and poor timing, rather than design flaws. It was a beautifully engineered, durable tractor that arrived at the wrong moment in history, when British tractor manufacturing was collapsing under global competition. Today, the few surviving 1694s are cherished by collectors as the last breath of David Brown's once great engineering legacy, a symbol of what could have been had fate been kinder to British industry. Number 3. Fordson Supermajor. In the early 1960s, Fordson ruled the European tractor market. The Supermajor, launched in 1960, was the company's pride, a 54-horsepower diesel tractor built in Dagenham, England, designed to dominate both British and continental farms. With its sturdy frame, powerful 3.6-liter engine, and sleek new design, it was one of the most advanced European tractors of its time. Farmers loved its reliability, smooth clutch, and hydraulic system that made it ideal for both arable and dairy work. But just as it peaked, Fordson made a fatal mistake. It didn't evolve fast enough. By 1964, rivals like Massey Ferguson and David Brown were offering sleeker, more efficient models with power-assisted steering, live PTOs, and better ergonomics. Meanwhile, Fordson's management was distracted by its corporate merger with Ford's U.S. agricultural division. The result? The British-built Supermajor was abruptly discontinued, replaced by the U.S.-influenced Ford 5000. The Supermajor was a brilliant machine that deserved a longer reign, but internal politics and changing market strategy killed it early. Its end marked the fall of British-built Fordsons, a moment many farmers still consider a tragedy. Today, collectors view it as the last true Fordson, great, durable, and doomed by corporate decisions. Number 4. Lamborghini 2RDT. Before Ferruccio Lamborghini became famous for sports cars, he was a tractor man. His company, Lamborghini Trattori, was one of Italy's most innovative agricultural manufacturers. In 1962, they launched the Lamborghini 2RDT, a 40-50 horsepower four-cylinder diesel tractor that showcased cutting-edge Italian engineering. It featured a four-wheel drive system, excellent fuel economy, and a beautifully designed body, sleek and aerodynamic compared to most boxy competitors. Technically, it was superb. The 2RDT handled Italy's hilly terrain with ease, thanks to its balanced weight and excellent torque. It was fast, agile, and reliable, a farmer's dream machine. But its price tag was a nightmare. Lamborghini built it with premium materials and advanced components, making it too expensive for the average Italian farmer still recovering from post-war poverty. While it won praise for innovation, sales were weak. By 1966, the 2RDT was discontinued, replaced by simpler, cheaper models. Ironically, the tractor's failure pushed Ferruccio Lamborghini to pivot toward another passion, building luxury cars. The Lamborghini 2RDT was a masterpiece that failed commercially, a reminder that even the best technology can falter if the world around it isn't ready. Number 5. UTB Universal 650. In the industrial heart of Brașov, Romania, a massive red brick factory once echoed with the sound of progress. This was Uzina Tractorul Brașov, UTB, one of the Eastern Bloc's largest tractor manufacturing plants and a symbol of communist Romania's determination to modernize agriculture. From this colossal plant emerged the UTB Universal 650, a tractor that would become both a national icon and, ultimately, a tragic casualty of changing times. Introduced in 1972, the Universal 650 was designed as a durable, no-nonsense workhorse for socialist collective farms. It was powered by a 65-horsepower four-cylinder diesel engine, air-cooled and designed for simplicity. The tractor featured mechanical 4WD, a basic 8-speed transmission, and heavy steel construction that allowed it to endure the brutal working conditions of Eastern European fields. It wasn't elegant, but it was nearly indestructible. The UTB 650 quickly became the backbone of Romania's mechanized agriculture, used for everything from plowing and harrowing to hauling grain and timber. What made the 650 truly remarkable was its ease of repair. Every part of the machine was engineered for longevity and accessibility. Farmers and mechanics could rebuild an entire engine in a small workshop using basic tools. This design philosophy made it especially popular not only across Romania but also in countries like Poland, Hungary, Egypt, and Pakistan, where imported Western tractors were expensive and hard to maintain. For decades, the UTB 650 symbolized reliability and self-sufficiency. Its squat, muscular stance and simple mechanics became instantly recognizable in the Eastern Bloc countryside. However, as the decades rolled on, the world around it changed, and the UTB didn't. By the 1980s, Western European tractors were evolving rapidly. Companies like John Deere, Deutz and Fendt were adding synchronized transmissions, hydraulic lifts, air-conditioned cabs, and better fuel efficiency, while the Universal 650 remained stuck in 1970s technology. It lacked comfort, efficiency, and modernization. Worse yet, as the Cold War economy weakened, Romania's planned economy could no longer fund major upgrades. The 650 soldiered on unchanged, a reliable dinosaur in a fast-evolving world. Then came the revolution of 1989. With the fall of communism, Romania's collective farms dissolved, and UTB lost its guaranteed state customers overnight. Suddenly, farmers could import used Western tractors at affordable prices, and demand for the old Universal. Number 6. County 1884. By the early 1980s, farming was changing fast. Implements were getting heavier, fields were expanding, and farmers needed raw power like never before. Across Europe, the race to build bigger, stronger, and more capable tractors was on. And from a small workshop in Fleet, Hampshire, came one of the boldest machines ever built in Britain, the County 1884. It was a brute, a marvel of engineering, and for many, the last great symbol of British tractor ingenuity. But just as quickly as it stormed onto the fields, it vanished, a victim of economic hardship and corporate collapse. The County Commercial Cars Company had a long history of converting Ford tractors into heavy-duty 4WD machines. Their specialty lay in innovation. They used equal-sized wheels, massive drivetrains, and unique 4WD systems that allowed superior traction in mud, clay, and boggy terrain where conventional tractors would spin helplessly. The County 1884, launched around 1980, was the pinnacle of that expertise. Built on a Ford 8700 platform, It housed a 6.6-liter Ford six-cylinder diesel engine, producing a colossal 18.8 horsepower, hence the name. It had two driven front axles, giving it 4 front wheels and unmatched grip. Farmers and loggers who used it described it as unstoppable. Whether it was pulling a heavy plow or dragging timber out of forests, the 1884 could do it all. The cab was large and comfortable for its time, visibility excellent, and the steering surprisingly light, despite the tractor's enormous bulk. County marketed it as the ideal machine for large-scale contractors and farmers who needed serious pulling power. In performance, it easily rivaled the top American models of its day. It was not only a tractor, it was a mechanical statement. British engineering could still hold its own against giants like John Deere and Case. But the County 1884 had one fatal flaw: timing. It arrived during one of the toughest agricultural recessions in modern history. The early 1980s saw plummeting crop prices, rising fuel costs, and shrinking profit margins. Farmers were tightening their belts, not buying premium 4WD machines that cost far more than standard models. At the same time, County's small-scale production methods made it difficult to compete with mass manufacturers. Every 1884 was essentially hand-built, which made it expensive to produce and even more expensive to sell. Meanwhile, Ford was moving in a new direction, developing its own high-powered 4WD tractors, effectively competing with the very company that modified its machines. By 1983, County was in financial trouble. Orders slowed to a trickle, and the once proud factory struggled to stay open. The company was sold, reorganized, and sold again, but by 1987, the lights went out for good. The County 1884 disappeared along with it, a brilliant machine that simply didn't have a market large enough to survive. Number 7. Mercedes-Benz MB-Track 1800. In the world of farm machinery, few names command respect like Mercedes-Benz. When the German automotive giant decided to build tractors, the industry took notice. By the early 1980s, Mercedes had already made waves with its Unimog, a go-anywhere vehicle that farmers loved for transport and municipal work. But what Mercedes wanted next was something bigger, something that could redefine what a tractor could be. The result was the MB-Track 1800 intercooler, a masterpiece of engineering that looked more like a military vehicle than a farm machine. It was powerful, luxurious, and decades ahead of its time, and yet it failed. The MB-Track 1800 was introduced in 1983 as part of Mercedes-Benz's push into high-end agricultural machinery. With its six-cylinder Mercedes OM442 V8 diesel engine delivering 180-200 horsepower, permanent four-wheel drive, and hydraulic suspension, it was the most advanced tractor Europe had ever seen. The cab was mounted in the center of the chassis for perfect weight distribution, a revolutionary design that gave it incredible balance. The seating position was high, visibility panoramic, and ride comfort unmatched. For farmers who'd spent years bouncing around in crude metal boxes, the MB-Track felt like a luxury car on wheels. Technically, it was superb. The transmission was smooth, the hydraulics precise, and the overall handling surprisingly agile for such a large machine. Mercedes built it with the same precision it used for its sedans: tight tolerances, impeccable wiring, and top-tier components. It was a tractor you could drive all day without fatigue. It was also versatile. With front and rear PTOs and hydraulic linkages, it could handle almost any implement. Many municipalities even used MB-Tracks for snowplowing, roadwork, and forestry. However, all that brilliance came at a cost, literally. The MB-Track 1800 was astronomically expensive compared to competitors from Fendt, Deutz, or Massey Ferguson. Mercedes had built it like a Mercedes car and priced it like one. It was meant for wealthy landowners or government agencies, not average farmers. The tractor's automotive components, though advanced, also made repairs complex and costly. Local mechanics found it intimidating to service, and replacement parts could only be sourced through Mercedes-Benz at premium prices. Number 8. Zetor Crystal 80111. In the industrial city of Brno, Czechoslovakia, during the 1970s, One tractor promised to change the image of Eastern European farming forever: the Zetor Crystal 8011. Built by Zetor Tractors, a division of Zbrojovka Brno, this was no ordinary machine. It was bold, modern, and technologically advanced. A serious attempt by the socialist bloc to rival the best tractors coming out of Germany and the United States. For a brief moment in history, the Crystal series gave Czechoslovakia's farmers something to be proud of, a machine that could finally stand wheel to wheel with the Western world. And yet, despite all its promise, it failed to reach its full potential, undone by politics, economics, and timing. The Zetor 8001 Crystal was introduced in the early 1970s as part of Zetor's push to modernize its entire lineup. It was powered by a six-cylinder Zetor diesel engine producing around 135–150 horsepower, giving it far more muscle than the small 50–70 HP models common in Eastern Europe at the time. Its name, Crystal, symbolized modernity, sleek design, futuristic styling, and clarity of purpose. The tractor featured full four-wheel drive, a spacious cab with panoramic glass, synchronized gears, and for the first time in the Eastern Bloc, a factory-installed air conditioning and heating system. The cab was mounted on vibration-isolating rubber blocks, drastically reducing noise and fatigue. Compared to the cramped, loud, and crude tractors farmers were used to, the Crystal felt like a leap into the future. Zetor engineers didn't just want to make a better tractor. They wanted to build the best tractor east of the Iron Curtain. The Crystal's advanced hydraulics allowed it to lift heavy modern implements, while its drivetrain was designed for durability and easy maintenance. Even Western agricultural magazines at the time noted how refined it felt. The 81 was not just a machine, it was a statement of pride, proof that Czechoslovak engineering could match global standards. But that dream soon collided with harsh reality. Under the communist system, Zetor's ability to produce in large numbers depended entirely on centralized state planning. The resources, funding, and steel quotas it received were dictated by bureaucrats in Prague and Moscow, not market demand. And while Western competitors like John Deere or Massey Ferguson were free to innovate and adapt, Zetor's engineers were often limited by what materials and technology they were allowed to use. Production delays, material shortages, and supply bottlenecks plagued the Crystal program from the start. Number 9. Fiat 1300-9 DT Titan. In the late 1970s, Fiat Agri, the agricultural arm of Italy's industrial powerhouse, wanted to create a tractor that symbolized modern European strength. The result was the Fiat 1390 DT, nicknamed Titan. It was built for the future. A massive six-cylinder, 130-horsepower 4WD tractor designed to dominate large-scale farms across southern Europe. It featured a wide cab, dual rear wheels, advanced hydraulics, and a comfortable operator layout at a time when most tractors were still rough and basic. However, timing doomed the Titan. As the oil crises of the 1970s hit, fuel prices skyrocketed and European farmers began shifting toward smaller, more efficient machines. The Titan was powerful but thirsty, and its production costs were high. Fiat decided to cancel the model before full-scale manufacturing began, redirecting its focus toward compact, export-friendly designs. In the end, only a handful of prototypes were built. The 1390 DT remains one of Fiat Agri's forgotten marvels, a glimpse of Italian engineering ambition halted by global economics. It wasn't a bad tractor. It was simply too big, too expensive, and too early for its market. Today, it survives mostly in photographs, a giant that never had its chance to walk. Number 10. Renault 190 Road Zetor 90. In the late 1960s, Renault Agriculture aimed to reclaim France's dominance in tractor manufacturing. Their ambitious project, the Renault 190, was designed to deliver over 100 horsepower with 4WD, a turbocharged diesel engine, and one of the first ergonomically focused cabs in Europe. It was meant to compete with Germany's Deutz and Britain's Ford, modern, sleek, and powerful. But internal struggles within Renault's corporate structure strangled the project before it could succeed. As Renault's automobile division boomed, resources shifted away from agriculture. The 100-90 was expensive to produce, and prototypes never reached mass production. By the 1970s, Renault pivoted to partnerships with other manufacturers, eventually selling its tractor division to Claas decades later. The 109 was ahead of its time, offering comfort and power in an era when most farmers still worked in open-air cabs. But it became a victim of corporate indecision. It was a vision of what French tractors could be, efficient, advanced, and elegant, that simply faded into history. Today it stands as one of France's great what-if machines, a tractor that had everything going for it except a chance to prove itself. They were more than just tractors. They were dreams on 4 wheels, machines that dared to go beyond limits, only to be crushed by fate, money, or time. From the cold fields of Germany to the rolling farms of Britain and Italy, these forgotten giants remind us of one simple truth: greatness doesn't always survive. If you enjoyed this journey into Europe's lost tractor legends, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because in the next video, we're digging even deeper into the machines that time tried to erase.